Hello everybody and welcome back to Pravus Gaming and more Bio-Ink Redemption in our Lethal Difficulty Guide series. Today we are starting up the Death campaign, having finished off the Life campaign. The primary difference between the two seems obvious. One tries to diagnose and save a patient, the other tries to inflict all hell and pestilence upon them. So that begins the Death campaign. Let's go and start in the morgue. And the first scenario is Head Start. Victim has a poor lifestyle and is in average shape. Alright, not too hard. We'll go for a female patient on lethal difficulty. Now, the boosters here are a little bit different than you might be expecting, or at least from the Life campaign. The economy is exactly the same, and we're going to go ahead and pick up the emergency bonus in order to get those extra points when we do send the patient to the emergency room. For diseases, I kind of like collateral diseases. It's pretty darn nice. All collateral damage is increased by 30%. An alternative would be to go for more symptoms, which makes it less likely that the AI opponent will be able to successfully diagnose you. And it can be helpful if you're finding that you're getting cured way too often. But if you're not worried about it, especially in the beginning, collateral damage really quite strong. Risk factors. Now, this one I would say is very much a personal preference kind of a thing. Going for cheap risks can be nice, save you a lot of points, get a lot of risk factors going pretty early on. 2 randomly pre-evolved ones, not bad. A lot of people tend to like overweight, because all weight-related risk factors become 50% stronger. Not too bad. All risk factors 15% stronger. Instant risks, evolving a risk factor also deals a burst of damage. All this is not so bad. I think for the start, we'll go for random risks, because I'm probably not going to waste a lot of points on risk factors. We can win this one easily enough without. But a couple of extra random risk factors will make it a little bit easier. Recovery, we will go for... you have a few options here. You could go for slow diagnosis, so that the AI has a harder time actually diagnosing you in the first place. Long strikes is good for some of the really difficult scenarios that are down to the wire, where you know that you're going to need to nurse a strike intensive care, or the equivalent in this case, in order to actually buy yourself some time. Poor treatments is almost always a good choice, though, because it means that any time that the doctors do cure something, it still is going to take a little bit of damage. Doesn't completely eliminate it, so it gives you a little bit of gas to work with. And for environment, quick collapse is a no-brainer. Make everything collapse a little bit faster. Alright, so in Jane Doe's case, she is going to have some pre-evolved risk factors, so we'll be able to use that to our advantage. Right now, it looks like the circulatory and the muscular system are the most vulnerable. I probably will start with the muscular system. 3 risk factors is not half bad. What we could do is try working toward post-phlebitic syndrome with the circulatory system. That would do a lot of damage to the circulatory system and the muscular system both, where she is going to take the most damage right now. So that probably would actually be a smart plan. Now, the patient does not start off being cured. The patient has to go to a doctor first, so we have a little bit of time to get some extra damage in there. We could try to make our patient afraid of the doctor, and that could buy ourselves some time. And the early stages, I'm not too worried about that, but in the future, it could be a really good option. Let's go for some nervous system pointage, like so. If I can get 8, we'll work toward the deep vein thrombosis next. Now, keep in mind, the more severe that the symptoms are, the more likely that the patient will go to the doctor anyway. Case in point, by picking up post-phlebitic syndrome, I think it's very likely that she will. Now, one thing I don't like about the Death campaign is you hover over the particular disease, and it doesn't just show you in a little pop-up what damage it does. That was something I really liked about the Life campaign, made it a lot easier to diagnose things. It shows the same information just down here for some reason. It's like, okay, sure. I mean, you could have done the same thing to be consistent, or you want to be special about it, then fine. You can be special about it, it's okay. Whatever you want, man. Whatever makes you feel better. Post-phlebitic syndrome is going to cost us 17 points, so we're just going to kind of sit around and do that. We can actually go ahead and speed things up. What is this little top bit on kidneys, by the way? It looks kind of creepy. Like a little disturbing soft serve thing, but it's brown and crusty and gross. I don't know, man. It gives me the shudders. But anyway, yeah, the Death campaign, I would say, is... I wouldn't say that it's easier than the Life campaign. Except that at least you have a sense of control as far as what you're doing to the patient. You really can sit back and just stock up a lot of points if you want to, and then just kind of inflict everything all at once upon the patient, and that's a completely viable strategy. Now, do keep in mind, in certain scenarios, the AI will be able to start evolving like various lifestyles and stuff, which is pretty helpful, and the longer you wait, the more they'll have, and that's pretty difficult. The other advantage, of course, of the death campaign is we have unlocked the sex roulette, unprotected sex roulette. So we're just going to do a little spin of the wheel. Oh, well, that was not much of a spin of the wheel, but okay, we get genital warts. I guess that's one way to kind of sneak it. And that just does a lot of extra damage for a brief time to one of the systems that is affected. Sorry, Jane Doe, it was your own darn fault. What were you thinking? Let's go for the extra 20% resources. If we get some risk factors, we can get harvest power, which, by the way, we started with 3 and got 2 more via our boosters. So we already have access to this upgrade. And if we go to the emergency room, we can get even more pointage for our gas. And you all know how much I love having the extra points. Upgrades, I would say, in the death campaign become very, very crucial. Most of the time, the way that you're going to play a scenario will probably be somewhat dependent on what boosters requirements there are. Lordy, Pravus, words. Do they know how to come out of your mouth? Because I am not convinced. All right, a lot of points going on there. Let's go to the muscle system. The post-phlebitic syndrome is working amazingly on her right now. We'll go for some chronic muscle cramp on top of everything else, and now it is taking a load of damage down here. Those extra risk factors, man, they go a long way. What are your problems anyway? You're sedentary, you have hereditary issues, and something. Oh, now she's going to the doctor because the symptoms are worsening and she's starting to get a little scared. Can't say that I blame her. But obviously, we now need to start ramping up our speed a little bit. It kind of plays a lot more like Plague Inc. itself, for those of you who are familiar with it. Because you really have the option of kind of flying under the radar and getting more powerful before you then go to the doctor. Or you can be aggressive. Either strategy kind of can work. Now, you can see that the patient is already starting to cure a few things. Or rather, the doctors are, as soon as she goes to the doctor. High cholesterol is going to be grabbed pretty early on, but I'm not too worried about that. The potassium deficiency was also detected. Not worried about that either. I think that we're going to have enough damage going into the circulatory system that we should be able to win this. What I also... Whoop, darn it. What I also could do... Hey, emergency room. Extra points for me. What we could do is go for the... Oh, what's the one that's in the cardio system that gives her damage to the lungs? Pulmonary embolism, yes. Since we're already this far down into the tree, we might as well pick that up and start doing some extra damage to the respiratory. Muscles have failed, which means every system is now taking some damage. Obviously, in the death campaign, making a single system fail is kind of your best friend. We are generating a lot of points, by the way. We're going to go for the hypertension and the pulmonary embolism. I would like to grab angina as well. She is working on the chronic muscle cramp, but there's nothing I can do about muscular dystrophy unless we pick up unlucky. Because apparently muscular dystrophy is not a hereditary condition or anything like that. No, it's just you're either lucky or you're not. Sorry, sucks to be you. All right, pick up all these extra points. Thank you. We could do a little extra damage in the cardio system with the angina, and I will. The hope being that we can make this fail a little bit faster, and once 2 systems are failing, every system's going to take a pretty substantial amount of damage. Whoop, but she did just get a heart transplant, which I don't like. So we'll probably go for an arrhythmia or something to make it worse. And remember, we did pick up collateral damage, so any diseases that would do extra damage to a secondary system, not the primary, is going to be extra strong. Case in point, the post-phlebitic is primary circulatory, but does a lot of muscular damage, and then we increase that by a further 30% because we had the extra collateral damage. That's pretty good. I really do like collateral damage, but you do kind of have to know which paths will lead to extra collateral damage. Case in point, by the way, the respiratory system is taking a lot of extra damage because that pulmonary embolism is in the circulatory system. You see how that works? It's a really effective strategy. Now, unfortunately, the doctor has actually been using some intensive care, which I don't appreciate. Absolutely not. What we may end up doing if we're having trouble with killing the muscular system is possibly go for something like... I don't know, maybe Parkinson's disease? We know that that's effective. Wait, we need over 60 years old for that to be a thing. All right, we're going to go for the chronic stress because it does damage to everything. Also a nervous breakdown. Let's just start ramping up some nervous system damage on top of everything else. And we could also save up for the necrotizing fasciitis, which I know is also pretty effective. Everything else has been basically blocked out. The fibromyalgia is still killing her slowly, and her circulatory system's going to fail. And when it does, of course, everything else will fall apart along with it. And it'll just cascade into failure after failure, and then goodbye. Let's go ahead and pick up the necrotizing fasciitis. We'll go here and pick up the dementia. we would need Workaholic in order to be able to do Burnout. This is the other thing that's a little bit different about the Death campaign. In order to access some of these trees, you kind of need to pick up the risk factors. So risk factors become extra important just to unlock a few options, whereas in the Life campaign, that was not an issue. Lifestyles were good, but they weren't necessary to know how to cure a patient. In this case, not so much. Let's see. We will go for... You know what? We will go ahead and pick up Workaholic, followed by the Burnout. And if I can get a few more points, we'll go for a Chronic Depression, which is damage to everything, which is extra good. But I'm actually not worried about it. The patient's already down to 14% health. This is going to be an easy victory. The game has been stuttering a lot lately for some reason. I don't know what the heck is happening, but I definitely don't appreciate it. Major Depression. All right, everything dies a little faster, which means all of her health systems start going down really quickly. Yeah, her overall health is just out of it. Completely gone. Goodbye! Bye, Jane Doe. Thank you for being an easy test patient. I do appreciate it. All right, so you do have to worry about the recovery in terms of your score. Diagnosis efficiency is not so much an issue. It's just about time and preventing the AI from curing you. Our score was 6,400 points, which is not terrible. But yeah, this is how the Death campaign works. It's really not too complex. It is a lot more like Plague Inc., but upfront and personal. And if you have played the Life campaign through first, you already have a pretty good idea which diseases end up being the most effective at killing a patient, and which disease trees or which systems are the easiest to diagnose and cure, so you know to stick away from those. The renal system, for example, if the AI catches you, can knock you out of those 2 trees pretty early on. It's a real pain, so the renal system is not all that reliable. So on and so forth. Anyway, I hope that gives you a good idea what the Death campaign will be like, but obviously it will be ramping up in difficulty as we continue. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If so, then be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.